Okay, guys. So that would be the two videos we had scheduled for this hour for the fourth step. So yeah, now we can like anyone can share their experience, make any observations, questions about what we have talked. It's Rachel here.
Yes, I'm here.
I mean the other Rachel.
Oh,
The one,
no,
the
she.
one in,
I think she couldn't make it online. So we don't
okay.
have it in the video. So any questions to her would need to be then redirected.
All right. Okay.
Chat or through collecting live questions.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just sending Bill the link again to make sure that he's not looking for it somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he'll be on any minute now.
Okay.
Time slot he was available. Okay, I'm shooting it out to him because I'm always looking for links last minute. So I'm imagining he might be. Oh, we are seeing Mina's face. Hi, Mina.
Mina.
Hey guys, I wanted to share a little bit about my experience after the boot camp.
Cool.
Can I do that?
Please
In
do.
the meantime? So I'm Mina Tekla. I'm from Egypt, currently living in Russia, in Moscow. I attended the MIT boot camp in 2017 in Brisbane, class 5. I was
Mina, we lost you.
Oh man.
Artur's.
Mina, if you can you stay still so maybe your connection is better.
Mina, we kind of lost you.
I think he's gone.
Yeah, he probably doesn't hear us either. He's talking. Oh, yeah. He'll reconnect, I guess.
So to go back with the theme, what Arturo and Rachel put on the video for us, does anyone have any questions or any comments, feedback for their presentation?
Yeah, I think I read a comment made by let me see, what was Subid?
Subid, yeah.
Subid, yeah, Subid. Yes, so you were saying like the TAM should be like it should be ballpark, right? So what is your experience with the TAM? I mean, I understand it's better and it's encouraged to do it bottoms up. So I was feeling a bit discouraged because I wasn't able to do it bottoms up. So I was like a bit frustrating because I tried, but I just couldn't come up with a way to do it. So I guess I'd like to know if you have any tips, any like tricks, I guess, to sort of know how to go your way through calculating TAM from a bottoms up perspective. Because that's what I really want to improve, you know, especially if it's an end consumer product.
So, hi everyone. I think I haven't presented myself yet. My name is Israel Saba, and I was at class 7, Queensland. And I'm joining and also answering this. What I find useful when calculating this TAM, I find it very hard due to this bottom-up characteristic. And what I usually do is in the TAM is a way of actually refining the persona again, refining the last steps, talking to people actually like it's kind of hard to talk to people without the high level specs, which I'm going to talk later on step 6. But step 7, I guess. Sorry.
Yeah.
And but you can always get a feeling from talking to the person of how much this person would pay. You don't actually ask the person, oh, how much you would pay for that. I mean, you doesn't even have a complete spec of your product, so you shouldn't be asking how much, but you could actually understand exactly how the person solves the problem currently. So, for instance, let's say you're selling laptops, you're inventing laptops, supposing that it wasn't invented and people are using PCs, desktop PCs. And then you know that there is a amount that people spend on PCs, and you know that they use PCs to solve the problem. And then you can start the pricing from that, and then yeah, and then Bill can help us out with that.
Hi, Bill.
Hi, Bill.
Yay.
Hey. I don't see.
Yeah, he's here.
Can you see us? Can you hear us?
All right.
Hi, Bill.
Hello, Bill.
Hello.
Hey, Bill.
Can you hear us, Bill?
I think he's being prompted whether he wants to join.
He's looking for the audio.
My audio is now on.
Oh!
Yeah.
Welcome, welcome.
Yes.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Bill.
Do we have Giovanni
Hello.
here? Giovanni wants to get his Lamborghini.
I'm here.
You are our target customer, Giovanni. You know that. Laura is not.
Lunchtime.
Yes, it's lunchtime in Boston. And I just was teaching this program at MIT and I came over. So tell me what to do, Rachel. Am I listening or what am I doing?
Thank you so much for jumping on. So we've just looked at TAM and we've had 2 presentations, and one of them was by Arturo, and he's sitting with a very big question regarding the difficulty of calculating bottom-up TAM. So I'll let him put the question to you, I think. And we also had a question about how do we actually adjust TAMs, because what if you're in a country where $5 million isn't even an option?
Yeah. So fire away with the question. All good questions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Arturo.
All right. Yes. So, hi, Bill. So,
Arturo, where are you? What part of the world are you in?
I'm in Honduras. That's in Central America.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
love it.
I was in
Where are
Brisbane.
people? Where are
2017.
people? Where are people now? There's 24 people on, and where are they from? All over the world. This is so great.
Isn't it crazy?
One for India.
24 people, 24 steps, 24 May, 24 hours.
Wow, that's true.
Wow.
You came on and it became 24. Everything aligns. This is nuts.
You should make a freemium model up to 24, and then make people pay above 24.
Yeah, then you get the scramble to get seats.
That guarantees you'll always have 24. So Arturo, what was your question about, like, TAM?
Yeah. So my question is I had a product that I wanted to launch a service, and I wanted to calculate the TAM for this product. The problem is that it was a end consumer product, and like I saw a lot of examples in the book, and I guess most of them seem to be like B2B businesses, business models. But when it's like it's aimed at the end consumer, I found it really hard to come up with the TAM.
Yeah.
I just couldn't figure out how to count noses for an end consumer market. And at the end, what I did is I did a tops down, but I felt frustration because I really wanted to do it bottoms up, but I struggled and I couldn't come up with a way to do it. And I saw the example in the book, which is On Demand Korea, and I love how those guys managed to calculate the TAM for an end consumer sort of product.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I was wondering if there were any sort of guidelines that you could follow, tips, advice, tricks, sort of, that you could give us when it comes to end consumer products and do a bottoms up calculation. Like, yeah.
So I think you're right. In B2B, there's a smaller number of customers, so counting noses is more possible, and they're easier to find. In consumer, it's more kind of a mass thing, and so what you'd have to do is kind of try. First of all, you get the tops down and figure out, okay, how much does the tops down tell us? And then I would look at a density for a specific area. Like I would get something that's like, well, how many would there be in, for instance, Cambridge, Massachusetts? And could I then validate what's the tops down saying versus what do I do in the bottoms up? So you try to find a manageable subset of it, and then you would manage it and say, does that really make sense? And usually the tops down either, significantly overestimates it because it doesn't give you insights into it. But that you get those insights from bottoms up. So let's just say, I know this is a B2B example, but I was just in the classroom talking about this. So if Sensible, it said there were 40,000 industrial designers. Now, if I did as soon as you do a bottoms up, you realize there are 40,000 industrial designers, but they fall into different buckets. You have the divas who are like the stylists, and then you have a bunch of industrial designers who like do rectilinear things like computers and furniture. And then the only ones that really mattered to us were the sculptors who were in the middle of that. And so you would never get that. You don't get that knowledge from tops down. We got that from bottoms up. And so then we could say, okay, what percent, looking on kind of in our area of the industrial designers that they have in the Boston area are actually stylists, which can be dangerous, by the way, because most of the stylists are with big manufacturing companies like cars, which we don't have as much here. And then what percent were the rectilinear ones, and what percent were the sculptors? And then we could extrapolate that across the bigger data set. But for consumer, I think the tops down is actually more important, and then you're looking to get those ratios with a smaller data set. That would be my simple response. But I also want to go to some of the other questions. Hopefully that's helpful. Yes. Oh, we have two more participants, Rachel. 2 people.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And what do you charge them for the premium price? Not being in the core 24.
Yeah, so we have a question from Maria, who said, she asked specifically, what percentage of the beachhead market should the TAM be if you're in a market smaller than $5 million, for example, in a small country?
Yeah, so is this Maria from Denmark?
Yeah.
Hello, Maria. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine, thank you.
Nearby, I was just up in Stavanger, in Norway.
Yeah, I just realized if I'd known you were going to be there, I would have traveled there to meet you again.
I'm going to actually, I think I'm going to be in Bergen next year. There's a new website. I don't know if you've mentioned this to people, Rachel, but the new website that Marius is doing is under construction. I think it's really good. And it shows events. And we should have more than just events where I'm going to be at. We should have events otherwise. But going to the question, look, when I first did the TAM size, that was for Boston. And if a market's like less than 5 million, it's not interesting for a team of MIT students. But if you're in Denmark, that might be a plenty sufficient market for you there. And it's not just the size of the market that matters. So if you're in Denmark and you have limited resources, if you can get a $5 million market in Denmark, and you can perfect what your product and your offering, and then you can move to, to Germany or the Netherlands or wherever it is, $5 million could be a great market. It might even be $1 million. The problem with the TAM calculation, or one of the limitations of the TAM calculation, is it's only about revenue. And revenue doesn't tell you how profitable the market is. It also doesn't tell you how fast you can conquer that market. So if I have a $5 million market and it's for dog food, and dog food, the gross margin, the profit margin on them is 5%, that's not a very good market because there's not a lot of profit there. However, if I had a $1 million year market and it was all profit, it was like an app and it was all profit, that's a more attractive market because I can get to cash flow positive. The other thing is, so it's profitability. The other thing is how long it will take me to win that market. So if I have an app, I'll go again with that. I can figure out within 6 months whether this works or not. If I have an energy company and I have $5 million, I have a $5 million market, but it's going to take me 3 years. Obviously, the $1 million market that would take me 6 months would be preferable. So it's profitability. It's how long it takes you to enter the market. It's the dynamics of the market that say, oh, is this a winner-take-all market, or is this a market that the most I can ever get is 20% of it? So you really want to get, and I go into this in the workbook more, is you want a market size that fits your region for your area. It gets not just to revenue, that's a proxy, but profitability, because you'd like to get to cash flow positive. And then it also gets to speed of market, and it also gets to percent. And the last thing that's obvious when you choose your beachhead market is if it gives me strategic value to move into another market, if I can get into this market, get it quickly, and then move into another market that's adjacent to it, that's even better. So all those things contribute to it. The TAM size of just the number is just the starting point. A richer discussion should follow from that.
Great.
So can I just elaborate on my question?
Yes. I didn't answer your question at all.
Well, you did answer it, but my challenge is that we are teaching our students for almost like a crash course for 3 weeks, but we just go through the 24 steps really fast before they do their semester assignment using the 24 steps. So because it's so fast, they will have to, I tell them they have to choose a very, very narrow beachhead market to be able to reach the potential primary markets in that area in that short time. So that means that the TAM will be very, very small. And I'm telling them they shouldn't so much look into how small the TAM is, but it's a matter of getting the idea of knowing what the beachhead market is and how much you can conquer of that. But they tend to look always into the book and saying, but in the book it says between 5 and 10, I mean, $5 and $100 million. So I was just wondering if you could just clarify a bit more the actual percentage. So if you're saying like you have a beachhead market of, sometimes we say to just use an area of the city as your beachhead market. So that means maybe the potential is like 100 people. So if they say that the TAM is 10 people, 10 of those people, so like, I mean, like a percentage, what is the closest percentage, or how can I'm looking for a way to teach them better of how to actually be able to calculate this. Do you know what I mean? So the challenge is that when it becomes so narrow, the learning is that to be able to see the TAM in correlation to the beachhead market, but they can get confused because the TAM gets so small.
Yeah, well, first of all, you're in your case, which is a very noble thing, you're trying to teach them. And the best thing to do, when you write a software program, It's just to go through it once and do it and not make everything right. And so the TAM calculation, to have them figure out, oh, this is how you do it. It's small, but how would you grow it is the learning experience. And I think you're doing the right thing. Do you still do it with the ice cream, or are you doing it with something else now?
No, we decided to go away a little bit from the ice cream because not that they got tired of it, but we realized that it was more important to actually have a more focus on the technology development there is in the market right now. So they need to choose their technology, either robotics or something else, and then do it from there, but still in the Danish market. And it's just actually to force them not to. We had a tendency of that it became too simple also with the ice cream case. So to force them to make it a bit more complex, to make the beachhead market a bit bigger. We chose that instead.
So I mean, I think the first time through, everything's not going to be perfect, and just to tell them that, but to figure out how the TAM and how would they extrapolate from the, what is the TAM for Cambridge for this product? Well, it's very, very low. All right, well, at least you know how to calculate the TAM. Now we have to keep moving, and we're going to do that. But you know that it's not big enough. And the problem that we usually have, by the way, in my classes, Maria, is that it's too big. They somehow get this idea that bigger is better in a TAM, for beachhead TAM, and it's not. They mix up the total TAM with the beachhead TAM. So that, that's a really important thing. So I hope
can you elaborate on the total TAM in correspondence to the beachhead TAM?
Yeah, so in step 14, when you go to the total TAM of the follow-on markets, you don't do that as much bottoms up. You do that basically tops down. So if I'm going to go to someone, I say, look, here, our regional market, I go to investors, advisors, I say, look, we have this great opportunity. Our beachhead market represents $10 million a year and could get us to cash flow positive. The overall, once we win that, we think the overall market for this is $3 billion, because after you conquer the initial market, then we're going to move into these following markets. That's what step 14 is all about. And that's the overall market in step 14 versus the TAM in the beachhead market, which is step number 4. So I wouldn't mix those two up.
All right. Guys, we have a couple of more questions. Maria, I don't know if you had another question.
No, it's okay. I think I've taken enough of the time for TAM, but thank you so much, Bill.
Thank you. Good to talk to you, Maria.
Yeah, nice talking to you too.
Keep fighting the fight.
Thanks, Bill.
Yeah,
Bill,
will do.
So we have another question from Niraj Bafna. Is Niraj here?
Yeah, hi guys. I'm here. Hi Bill. How are you doing?
Where are you?
I'm from India.
Yes, but where are you now? In India?
Western part, Mumbai.
Fantastic. This is such a great idea. I don't know if this was your idea, Rachel.
It was Tomas's idea.
Tomas, where are you?
Yeah, Tomas is getting on later because he was traveling back from London where he was pitching to investors for his company.
Excellent. Tell him I'm going to get him a pistachio gelato for this.
Okay. He'll be on later.
All right. So Niraj's question was, how do we calculate the TAM for the product which is first to hit the market? And also, there is no existing competitive solution for that particular problem.
Yeah, good question. So when you're the first one to market, your cap on your TAM is the total budget that your end user has. That's the cap that you could get. And you probably can never get that. So you're going to have to figure out how much do they spend in this area today? What's the total wallet amount that they spend? And then say, we can get some fraction of that and estimate that. So what if you're a new customer and you're the Peloton bike and you're coming in, how much can you get? Well, how much does our customer spend on fitness today? Because that's probably what you're going to, you're fighting for that. And they spend $100 a month going to SoulCycle. I don't know if this makes sense to people who don't know Peloton and SoulCycle, but they come out with a new fitness product that can be in your house. How much do they spend on fitness today? So we can get a percent of that wallet share. We could get 50% of that. That's just an estimate. Remember, a TAM is not a precise calculation. It's a calculation that gives you an order of magnitude to know if the market is, 1 million, 10 million, 50 million, 100 million, hopefully if you can get better gradation from that, but it will never be correctly right, because at this point, we don't know what the customer's willingness to pay is. They haven't proven what their willingness to pay is. So, you're coming up with estimates. You're looking at how much they spend today on products that are similar. And then you have to realize you're not going to get all that market share or wallet share that they have.
All right. Thank you, Bill. Thank you so much for the answer.
Thank you, Niraj. Keep fighting the fight.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, so Bill, we have 1 minute and 3 more questions. Do we just do eeny, meeny, miny, mo, or?
Just do it fast. Just go quick.
Okay, one from Andres. He has a question, like this is a philosophical philosophical question. Many things have happened after you came out with the 24 steps. Have you thought about updates with some sort of step 0 or step 25?
Yes. So the first two are like, what's really clear, and I have a blog post I'm about to put out, is, we never dealt with the ideation process at the beginning. I take full responsibility. So how do you come up with good ideas? I don't really care that much about that because I think the idea doesn't matter, but a good ideation process is really step 0. Step 0 was really about how do you form companies. And Norm Wasserman's book was really good about that, but I think there's so much more that could be done. I think another big thing that I now call step 13B is window of opportunities and triggers. And I wrote this up in the workbook, and I think that's really, really important. You can have the DMU right, you can have the DMP right, but you have to know when's the window of opportunity and set up triggers to get that process going. The fourth thing I would say is that we started out here using the business model canvas, and then we went away from it because it was not helping people develop a real understanding of their business. It was like a checklist. They would fill in stuff, and they didn't really understand it. But after the first book came out, I realized that people love a scoreboard that says, here's where we are. They love a canvas. And so that was why we built the Disciplined Entrepreneurship Canvas. But I overcame my issues with the business model canvas in that it's sequential and things build off each other. And you have to start on the left, and you can't just go on the right and say, oh, we're doing a good job with cost of customer acquisition and LTV without knowing who your customer is. That's just like building a castle on a foundation of sand. And then the fifth thing I would say is that this blog post about primary market research I have coming out, and I wrote a chapter in there. I think one of the things that if I have more energy is how do you do good primary market research? And as I would encourage you to look at the website, and I will have something coming out that we picked up in Norway by getting a journalist. How do you interview people? And there's, again, in the red book, I fixed some of these things because there's a special chapter on how you do primary market research. There's a special chapter on windows of opportunities. There's a special chapter on the DE canvas. So some of this stuff is fixed, but I hope you all will take it and modify it and make it better and refine the steps. And I think that's what this is trying to do.
Yeah, that's actually happening in this event because Andres was actually suggesting step 0, which is exactly what you said. And Anders is going to close the event with a 25th step about sales, which he feels is very much needed. And we brainstormed and came up with the anti-champion figure, who is the person in the DMU circuit that is actually sabotaging everything through being an anti-advocate. So yeah, we'll be mirroring all of this back to you. And since we're just
actually, one of the things is that life has given me the opportunity to be a journalist, even though I majored in business administration. So I basically do market research constantly. And
who is that?
I was the one who asked the question. I'm Andres from Medellin, Colombia.
Andreas, so I'm going to post this thing, and I'm interested to have you look through it. I think journalists, that's exactly right. They are the best ones at primary market research because you have to do it every day. And so please look at that and then make comments. To your point, Rachel, it was funny because I said I was just in Norway and someone stood up and go, why don't you write a book about this? And being, from New York and being somewhat of a jerk, I said, why do I have to write a book? Why don't you write a book? I think I know that the collective wisdom of the group is more than any one person in it. And I'm willing to take everything I know and put it in. But I think we all have to work together to build that knowledge amongst us that will be much more. I don't have all the answers by any stretch. It just so happens I'm older than anybody else here. And I've made more mistakes than anybody else. But I think that this idea of building step 25, building step 0, modifying things, coming up with examples, that's how you build a real body of knowledge. So Andreas, be on the lookout. I will, as soon as I can get Marius's attention, this will get posted within the next week.
Count with it. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Bill. We want to be mindful of your time because we're very, very disciplined and we're 4 minutes over the hour and there are 2 more questions. So should we be sending those over or do you want to?
No, let me do it right now.
Okay.
Most of me, I don't see here.
Okay, so Israel had a question is when you do B2B, it is easier to segment the market because people have job titles. How do you do it for B2C? How do you segment?
Yeah, good question. Where are you located, Israel?
I'm from Brazil.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Crazy down
Brazil.
there.
Yeah.
Just keeps getting crazier. So yeah, that's a good question. And what I see people do is they kind of make up names for different segments of the market. So they don't have titles as a B2B, but they call this person, they'll give this person a title and they'll have a description of it. And it's actually good, like when you give them a title, then people kind of like relate to it more. That's what they have in the made to stick. So I would give the market segment kind of personas titles and then really build up and then be able to identify them. But again, build up robust personas or target customer profiles with proxy products and watering holes. Do all that work. Too often I feel like people just build up the target customer profile and they just do it as an exercise to check the box. When it's a good persona, it should be like the one we were just doing here this morning. It's like, oh, and then somebody yells out, and they have a golden retriever dog, they really start to understand the person emotionally and they get to high levels of detail. That would be my answer. But it's a good point and just label them. What's the next one?
Thanks.
Thank you, Bill. And we have one last question from Krish in India. Krish, would you like to word your question? Because I'm not quite sure I can read it properly.
Hey, Bill, how are you?
Good, how are you, Chris?
I'm doing good. I'm from Bangalore, India.
Great.
I was in the 2018 session. So my question is that, I'm building a machine learning platform and we want to cater it only to supply chain. Now, when I looked into these kind of platforms, like, companies like H2O, and I read about their journeys and everything, how do you really cater a very technology platform for a very specific line of business, like be it like to supply chain or to retail, but how do you target your customers into that? How do you do a competitive analysis? And how do you address the TAM in that sector?
So this goes back to the last question. This actually is an easier problem than the B2C one, because you would look at who are the vendors today, and like in a B2C, there's not clear budgets. Like how much money do people spend on ice cream? They don't have like a fixed budget, but in businesses, they have fixed budgets. And you're gonna have to go in and do good primary market research to find that out. You look at all the competitors and you see what they're doing. And so, in fact, it's easier to do that and to figure out what the target is for a B2B, although it says target TAM for a B2C, which could be catered to. So you basically would look at all the proxies. Who are all the other companies? Add up what they're doing, And then are you going to make the market bigger, or are you just going to take market share away from them? And that's how you would go about it. I actually think it's much easier, and the examples in the book are more B2B than this. Are you talking about B2B, or are you talking about B2C? I'm a little confused.
So when I okay. Yeah, Rachel.
Oh, I was going to say, you mentioned supply chain. You could also look towards supply chain like networks, associations, people that have been certified in supply chain. So there's a whole business network of individuals who work in supply chain, and they could give you kind of a quantification of how large the supply chain network is. For example.
So who was that?
Okay, fine.
Liz Fuller.
Good. Hey, Liz, how are you?
I'm good.
So
Did that sound about right, Bill?
It sounded more knowledgeable than mine because you know this stuff.
Yeah, I was going to put it out there to the group that you can contact me directly, and I can help you with bottoms up or tops down if you ever have any questions, because I used to do that for a living, and thankfully I don't have to do that anymore. PMR is my new passion.
So I think that's a perfect segue for me is I love this stuff. I have some answers, but there's so much wisdom in the group, and that will be accessible to you more easily probably than reaching me. And don't think that I know better than other people in the group. Liz gave a better answer than I did. By the way, Megumi Takata just showed up here.
Thank you.
He's from Kishu University. This is 24 steps in 24 hours around the world. Wow. And he's never sleep. No, I sleep. They don't sleep. And he's a professor from Japan that runs an entrepreneurship center at Kishu University.
Very nice to see you. Thank you.
Oh, greetings.
Yes. So, well, good. So we'll stay in touch via the website, and we'll put if you go under articles, you'll see articles and blog posts. And let's just, I have the blog post to put up, and I would really appreciate it, Andreas, if you would comment and make additions to that, and we can start to kind of have user-generated content.
Thank you so much for the trust.
Thank you.
Come with it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Bill. And I'm going to help Bill out for a second. On the website, there's also links to the workbook. And the workbook has free chapters on windows of
in all
opportunity.
different languages. By the way, Marius deserves enormous kudos because he put this whole thing together.
Yes, and we've shared the link into the chat, so everyone bookmark the blog and the website, and let's engage with that. And Bill, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, everybody.
Participating. Thanks a lot.
And thank you for all you're doing, Rachel and Tomasio. This is just fantastic. You don't know how happy this makes me.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Bye. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye, Bill.
Bye.